Andy's friends and all of Chris's friends together in one place. Normally that would only happen in a courtroom. Let's hope the only people who end up in handcuffs tonight are the ones who asked for it. Andy often asks Chris to put him in handcuffs. To start off with, it was to practice protesting, but now it's just exciting. Which led to a bit of a misunderstanding when he got arrested in Wellington a couple of weeks ago. Because the cop who patted him down thought he was hiding a tiny weapon in his undies. Which he is. Luckily for me, his memory's not very long either, so. What we all love about Chris and Andy, though, is their great sense of humor. Like when Chris says she's going to retire. Or when Andy says he doesn't eat meat. So I think as long as I don't joke about the really serious stuff, like how Andy just bought a new diesel vehicle. Or how Chris's horse farts uncontrollably when it runs. They might start arguing about whose ride emits more greenhouse gas. Because they argue quite a lot, Chris and Andy. Like, when people see them together on the street, they'll often ask Chris if she needs help. And when people see them together at home, they ask if Andy needs help.
It's true.
But look at what they've accomplished together. We've got 30 years of marriage, 2 beautiful children, and chance. That's okay. I'm sure Chi and I's relationship will survive this because we lived with Chris and Andy for a year and they didn't break us. So I doubt this will even put me on the couch.
We tried.
Now, living with Chris and Andy, that was a trip because most of you know Chris and Andy, but you haven't lived with them. And that's like the difference between seeing Ukraine on TV and moving in with Vladimir Putin and Zelensky. We had to hold a peace summit every time XR annexed the horse float.
Oh my gosh.
I think one reason for the perpetual conflict is that they both have really great qualities as individuals, but that doesn't often mesh well together. Like Chris is dependable, caring, and loves hard work. As in, she dependably cares whether Andy's working hard.
Just sat on the case.
While Andy is attentive, creative, and optimistic. As in, he often has to attend to himself in creative new ways. But is always optimistic that Chris will do it for him. So for those of you who don't know what the Chows are up to these days, I'll fill you in. Even in her old age, Chris is still working really hard as a defense lawyer. And she's always on the phone to some abusive, crazy person. And when she's not talking to her mother, she's dealing with clients. She spends all day trying to keep innocents out of captivity and then races home to make sure her horses and her husband haven't escaped. Andy is still busy too. That's the punchline. Andy is still busy in the same way that a shop that rents DVDs is busy. He gets 1 or 2 visitors a day, and they're normally looking for weed or porn. No, what really gets Andy excited is protesting stuff. It doesn't really matter what it is. He could be stopping a train full of coal or a train full of elderly tourists, as long as someone's getting locked to the tracks. It's all good. No, he did take offense at the anti-mandate protest last year. When people drove their vehicles and parked them up on the Capitol playground and threw shit at police, he was like, that is disgraceful. They should have taken the wheels off those vehicles so the cops couldn't tow them away. They're throwing the shit. Amateur hour.
I was actually envious of how successful it was.
There you go. No, I think everyone can agree that if you count Chris or Andy as your friend, as your family, or even as your cellmate, you can count yourself to be a very lucky person because they're unique and great humans. So I think we should give them a round of applause.
Yeah.
We've got a long list of people here who are very special and who mean a lot to Chris and Andy. None of them will be speaking, but they are here. And I'll invite a few speakers up now. So our first speaker has known Chris and Andy for 30 years, and I sat down with Andy for about half an hour trying to get dirt on this guy, and he didn't have a single bad thing to say about him. Then Chris walked in, and criticism is one of her specialties, so it didn't take long to find out that he was actually a terrible driver. So I want everyone to please welcome a man who lives like Jesus and drives like Satan.
That was a very good roast.
Very good.
Yeah, around the
Yeah, keep going. Well, that was a good. Hard to follow that one. Yeah, I've known Chris and Andrew. Please, please.
cherry pie.
Donald. Yeah, I've known Chris and Andrew. Oh, Andrew. Yes. For about 30 years. We bought a piece of land out at Purukanui. I lived out there. We bought this land and built with Joe and Glenn, her partner at the time, and the three families, Daniel and I and these two, and we bought the land and we built these. We lived together. We built these houses together. And the children, we had all the children. We had Chris and Andrew had the three girls, and we had four boys. Four.
Lucky Rose is not here.
And Joe and Glenn, they had two boys, Theo and Matt. And so all the children basically grew up in their early years on the land and went to Purukanui school together. And as they got a bit older, they moved into town, the kids to school. Chris and Andrew is still out here, out at Purukanui. And they built a lovely fairy tale house that Andrew spent a lot of time correcting to make unsquare. And lots of arguments for the building inspector, I know that. But you got there in the end. And what was I going to say? Well, I want to say something about Chris and Andrew both. I mean, Chris, this lovely, generous-hearted woman, intelligent and funny. Andrew, the adventurous one, slightly a bit of the sort of a. He does things like in a way where you've got to say goodbye through things you know and hello through things you don't. He'll step off the edge in a way. It's a way of describing your way of moving into the unknown, but a confidence, can-do attitude. And Andrew's got that. Also, it's Chris in a way, but Andrew probably
I
more
don't
so.
get arrested.
Not yet.
But in all these years, I mean, our family and your family and Joe's family, all the children, Andrew's grown up, and Chris, they've grown up around you. You've been easy with them and obliging and taking them and all sorts of experiences, rock climbing and skiing and surfing and doing it all, really. And that's been a great lead in for them to, you've always been there. You both have always been there. And I think I think it's an aspect of love, really. If whether it's your partner, your friends, your children, your pets, just always be there. And you've always been there. And you're still there.
You can count on that.
I'll see you later. And I think that's one of the really important aspects of the relationship we have. Your family, the girls, and our family. I mean, and only my youngest son is 28. Dominic's about 28, isn't it, Dom?
Told me he's 22.
But I mean, 30 years ago, he was 28 years ago. He was born on the land, not on the land, but when we were on the land. And you've been skiing and climbing with him and long distance running. That's probably this year, and you're still going. I mean, I think it's a fantastic thing. It really is, to me, to my heart, to know that. And I think in closing, probably, your family and Liam. Liam's in this. We've all, with Ori and Shani and Annie and Liam, you've sewed yourself into this tapestry with our family and Joe's family. And the tapestry is called whānau. And the whānau is only part of a small part of a bigger tapestry called life. And I think, in a way, we're all connected in a deeper sense than just the 6 degrees of bloody separation, whatever it is. But, so I feel, and we've shared a lot of tears together over the years, and I think but we shared a lot of celebration. And I'm sure Marco will be giving you both a big hug. So I'll give you both a big hug. And no. Oh, thank you.
All right, get a room.
No, thank you.
What did I tell you? He speaks like Jesus too. Eh? So our next speaker has also known Chris and Andy for 30 years, but they had no trouble coming up with bad things to say about her.
That's not true, Georgia.
Well, apparently she likes to tell her Tesla that it has a nice ass and likes to fondle it. Which is also something she's done to Chris. Which makes Andy extremely jealous because he doesn't have access to a Tesla or Chris's house. Georgie's got a last name only a rapper would be proud of, and if she keeps objectifying cars and women, she could actually make a career at it. Please welcome Georgie Ferrari.
This is my natural hair. He mihi nui tēnei ki a koutou, he mihi nui tēnei ki te haukainga, he mihi nui tēnei ki te whare e tu mai nei. Tēnā koutou katoa, ko Georgie Ferrari taku ingoa. Hi everyone.
Kia ora.
Kia ora. I acknowledge all of you. I acknowledge the mana whenua here. I acknowledge this beautiful house that you've built. I call it Andrew's Taj Mahal to Chris. And I acknowledge Kaitahu, the mana whenua. I've been given the honour to speak at this 122nd birthday. Everyone knows it was 122nd. Most people think they're here for Chris. Andrew, you slid under the radar. But it is also Andrew's 62nd birthday very soon. So we're at 122 and I thought to myself, I haven't been to a 122nd birthday party before, and I'd hazard a guess, most of you, this is your first. And then I wondered, it got me thinking, who has ever lived to 122? Turns out someone did. It was a woman, of course. And she's a French woman, and her name was Jean-Louise Calment. And now I know we all have a bit of an issue with the French since the Rainbow Warrior, but stay with me. As it happens, Chris and Andrew both have quite a lot in common with our 22-year-old Frenchie. For example, Andrew, the New Yorker did an article on her and reported that she never worked. But she never has a life of recreational pursuits, including tennis, roller skating, and wild boar stalking. So swap that out for skiing, kite surfing, and stalking oil oligarchs, and we've got a match. Jean was also like what I like to call an active relaxer. She coped with all that life threw at her by never staying still. Sound like anyone we know? I challenge anyone in this room to recall a time when they've arrived at this house to visit Chris and found her sitting down. Having a rest, never. He described her breasts as firm as two little apples. Now, Chris, I don't know if you want to align yourself with that comparison, but I'm sure Andrew really likes that idea.
And aptly described.
Right. After she died, a number of her detractors started to question whether Jean Clement was actually 122. How could it be so? And here again we have some comparison. I mean, look at these two. 60 and 62, really? They're both fitter than most 20-year-olds. They run marathons, they swim, they walk, they ski, they kite surf. If it weren't for the fact that I've known you for 30 years, I'd be calling in the specialist to confirm your own ages. Andrew and I recently had dinner in Wellington, and I got some rich info for the speech tonight. And it is a wee bit long, so you'll have to stay with me, because it's worth it. And then I had a lovely long chat with Chris. Yes, she was knitting. And I got some more intel. And I worked out that Andrew was 30 when I met him, and I was probably 19, just turning 20. Well, Andrew said, I was 30 chronologically, but 15 intellectually and emotionally. And wants me to... No. Sit down. I heard about Andrew before I met him. These two guys, Ants and Andrew, had climbed up onto the Arthur Barnett's roof and spray painted over an Elle Macpherson billboard, elevating her to the job of brain surgeon to alert us all to the fact that women are so much more than their bodies. It was
Someone
really
has just
brilliant.
done a cartoon story about that, and it's coming out in a comic.
Awesome!
Graphic novel.
Excellent. It was it your first arrest,
Well,
Andrew?
right.
Willful damage to a toilet seat.
Around this time, I also met Chris in 1990. She was in the women's room at Otago University. Chris claims she was hanging out in there trying to be a lesbian. She She obviously failed miserably. But as my fellow lesbians here tonight will attest, the motto of the Secret Lesbians Club is "Don't die wondering." See you later. And Jean Clement, if she's anything to go by, you've got years and years ahead of you to find out. In 1991, in an act that really cemented their heterosexuality, Irie came along. And I still remember Chris and Andrew asking me in a very serious tone whether I would be their number one babysitter. And I was more than delighted at the prospect, and I would trundle over to their house in North East Valley, or their house in Marty Hill, or their house in Opaho, whichever house it was, and I would look after that wee baby while they went for a run. But let's go back a few years to before I knew them, and they met in 1986. Is that correct? This is turning into a bit of This Is Your Life. Chris was flatting with Ian and Roz. Roz is here tonight.
And Ian.
And Ian's here?
But another Ian.
Another Ian.
Okay.
There are two Ians.
Sorry, that's confusing.
Actually, there are more than two.
And Ian was Andrew's bestie, and Andrew was starting to come round more and more, spending some time in Ian's room and then mooching over to Chris's room. It won't surprise you to learn that there are two versions of these events. So stay with me. Chris says Andrew wasn't interested in me. He had the hots for Roz. Andrew says it wasn't love at first sight. Chris says I thought he wouldn't be interested in me at all, a commerce student from Auckland. He was all arty-farty. Andrew said Chris to this day thought I fancied Roz, and there is a degree of truth in that. Andrew's first move, according to him, was Chris's birthday. Andrew made a cake with a balloon inside of it, which was a caricature of Chris. And as she cut into the cake, it imploded. And that, he said, was my love overture. Andrew said by the end of that first year it was getting pretty special. Chris said at the end of that year I was getting together with my export marketing tutor. Andrew turned up to walk Chris home from the library when it closed at 11 p.m, and so did the export marketing tutor. Chris, it should be noted, only lived in Albany Street, was just around the corner. Obviously, Andrew's walking home style was better than the export marketing tutors. Then on one fateful night, Roz, Andrew, and Ian and a few others went to Palm's restaurant for dinner. Danielle and Al started that restaurant. Yeah. And apparently, Chris says that Andrew ran his hand up Chris's calf, from her up from her calf right up to her thigh. Something that many of us may have thought about doing over time. And Chris thought, okay, that's a bit forward. And it was on. And maybe that's why it's called Palm Cafe. You took it literally. 1986 was the year of Halley's Comet. Some of us here who are over 45 will most likely have living memory of Halley's Comet. And for most of us, it will only come twice in our lifetimes if we're lucky. Even Gilles Clement, the Frenchie, saw it only twice, in 1909 and in 1986. Now, Chris and Andrew have both admitted they're not big on romantic gestures, but falling in love with a visible comet overhead is pretty damn romantic, if you ask me. Chris said they would go and sleep at Logan Park or Signal Hill or Aramoana and sleep out under the stars and watch the comet. Roz was often there too, I'm told. They skinny dipped one night. I don't know who skinny dipped. I don't know anything about skinny dipping, but there was skinny dipping. Andrew, for the record, didn't mention the comet at all. So I asked them both about romance. And Chris said, we're both emotionally repressed, but we're quite practical and can't be fucked with that romantic shit. We just get on with it. Chris told me that Andrew once went to Penrose's and bought her some really beautiful French silk underwear. Now that's romantic, Andrew. Well done. Later, Chris told me she exchanged it for some sensible cotton knickers. She would. Andrew said, I've never been one for romantic gestures. That cake was the pinnacle of my romance. Neither of us had the courage for large romantic gestures, but we've always had good sex. Physical, not emotional, close your ears. I asked them what they both loved about each other. And Andrew said, I love her stoicism. She just gets on with it. She carries on. I love her integrity, her continuous energy. Extraordinary, unbelievable, sustained energy that she puts in 24 hours a day. And he said, even if that's not numerically accurate, it's how it feels. He went on and said, I think of myself as an energetic person, but she leaves me in the dust. I'm attracted to it because she's twice the person I am in that respect. She's exceptional to me in that way. It's constant. And this Andrew.
It's true.
Yeah. And this Andrew was your quote of the night. I'm a parasite on her energy.
Also true.
And Chris wouldn't disagree. She never spares the rod when it comes to me. Criticism is Chris's love language.
Not wrong.
He also said she's an extremely loving mother. And Chris said, when I said, what do you love most about Andrew? Chris said, I'm really bad at answering things like this. He's got a nice penis, but you can't say that.
She knows.
We need to edit that bit out. She said, I love his practical skills. I love the way that he fixes everything. And I love his eye for design and creativity. He's very talented and he's really clever in a non-conventional way. And I love his kindness towards others. And then I asked Chris what she thinks Andrew loves most about her. And she said, my cooking? And then she said, probably my energy and drive. He'll love that. And then I asked Andrew what he thought Chris said she loved most about him, and he said that I'm capable. So while you two might not have your big romance, might not be into those gestures, I would proffer that it's incredibly romantic that you both know what the other loves and admires in you. And now it's my turn to tell you, I'm nearly finished. Now it's my turn to tell you what I love and admire in both of you. A friendship that spanned 30 years, with 17 of them me living in another country, but we've always kept in touch, often through the medium of food. The three of us love good food, and we've shared lots of it over the years in Dunedin and Melbourne and in Wellington. Chris, you're a staunch feminist who has always valued and placed a high importance on your friendship with women. And you might not have lesbian status, but you're pretty darn close as a strong feminist lesbian ally, and I love and admire that in you. You've raised 3 amazing daughters, let's face it, for a while, almost on your own. All of whom are as staunch as you. They share your work ethic, your love of the outdoors, and your sense of humour, and your intelligence. And I admire greatly your sense of social justice, which is borne out more than ever through your work as a public defender. And I love the beauty and the bounty that you create in every garden you've ever had. Andrew, you creative dreamer. With your strong politics, I love your deep moral compass. your refusal to fly because the planet is fucked and getting more fucked, your truth-telling when it comes to the environmental collapse we're facing, and your preparedness to put yourself in the middle of it to get arrested if needed to alert us all to our possible imminent demise. And on the flip side, I love your lightheartedness, your irreverence, your sense of the absurd, and your ability to enjoy everything good that life and nature has to offer you. There's so much more I could say, but I'll save the rest for your 100th and 102nd birthdays respectively. About 20 years ago, we started thinking about our retirement plans, and it's nice to hear Al talk about Purukanui and the land, because the retirement plans involve a little bit of land in Wanaka perhaps. We've been plotting and scheming to maybe put some small structures on that land with a communal kitchen and a living area that we'll share. Andrew's really keen on having a live-in nurse. And you know why? Let's not rain on that parade, Chris. Maybe we'll just get a male nurse. Those plans are a bit closer now. Shit's getting real as we age. I look forward to those days, 20, 30, maybe 40 years from now. We'll be sitting on our porch, planning our next XR rebellion or XR action. Well, Andrew and I will be. Chris will be in the garden, moving the horses, turning the compost. She might come and sit down with us for a bit and knit. Probably something for her great grandkids. Who knows? We might even be there long enough to see each other again.
This one is, so a guy walks into the bar with a steering wheel down his pants, and the bartender says, "Hey, you've got a steering wheel down your pants," and he's like, "Yeah, it's driving me nuts." So, did you hear about the guy who dipped his balls in water? Pretty nuts. I'll say that one again. Did you hear about the guy who dipped his balls in water? Pretty nuts. Did you hear about the cross-eyed circus dancer? It got the sack.
I've always wondered why Chris knows so much about export marketing, but now it all it's coming together. Our next speaker is from Auckland, but we still like her. If Chris's family was a dish or a meal of some kind, I think it would be a fruit salad. Because Chris is kind of like the orange. Like, sometimes she's great and sometimes she's terrible. And she's got some little apples, like Georgia was saying. But Marilyn would be the bowl, because she holds everyone in the family together, and she's very stable, also very boring. Until you get a couple of drinks in her. Come on, Marilyn.
Pretty hard act to follow, but I've known Chris probably for 60 years now. It's quite funny having a sister that's a lot younger than you, because I don't think we ever went to school together. There was such a big gap. I was always in the next school by the time she joined, so I never really had a lot to do with you. And it's sort of weird to know that, you know, like when I left school, and then Christine grew up and left school, and it was like, oh my goodness, I've got this little sister doing all these incredible things. So I'm just going to keep it short and sweet. And I was talking more to Christine, but I'll take it a bit through. You're an amazing woman. Your ability to tackle anything is above and beyond the average. From working in a lawyer's office in Takapuna, the only thing I remember is you coming home and saying, I can do that job much better than him. Then you wandered off to Australia and then came home and then took off to Dunedin, which I thought was pretty brave to do a business degree. But I love visiting you and your student homes, but being slightly intimidated by your living conditions. Road tripping with you and Andrew up the west coast in winter was an exercise in a Survivor episode. I don't know if you remember that the radiator blew a hole going up some pass, and you jumped out of the car and said, "No worries," pulled out a tube of toothpaste and fixed it. So it was like straight out of the Guyver. But I loved visiting you down here and being introduced to a wonderful new group of people and seeing your passion to help, from late night visits to Women's Refuge. I thought we were going shopping. And then you got into saving yellow penguins. Do you remember that? I'm not quite sure how the penguins fitted in. But anyway, I was surprised that after all of that you decided to take up law and to help set things straight in the world. What I couldn't believe was that you would have 3 girls, a baby, and then start commuting from Wanaka to Dunedin and finish off your law degree. And Andrew, they can't knock you for being a dad because you brought up those girls and you were looking after Emily. And I knew she was just a baby.
And look how you turned out. Actually, yes.
But you did.
They suffered dieting.
I'll get into that later.
Some girls' complaints about the meals you would cook. And I think it was like, oh no, don't just ask me to be dal again. That was your standard. A few years ago, Christine, you're an amazing woman and unbelievably generous, and you really will give to your last dollar. We had the chance a few years ago to walk the Camino, and it wasn't just with money that Christine was generous. I remember one day we walked, and it had been raining, it was so unbelievably wet, and we sort of crawled into this inn, or auberge, and thinking, we're really hungry, but we're not going out in the grain. And Christine says, I'll go. What do you want? I said, I don't care what you want. Here, just give us a bottle of wine. So you came back very proudly. Said, I found a bottle with a screw top. And I thought, oh, great, because we didn't have a corkscrew. And all the wines in France still use corks. And you opened it and you poured the wine and it came out brown. And I was like, that's really unusual wine. So I tasted it and I said, Christine, that's not wine, it's sherry. And she said, oh, that's right, I'll go and get another bottle. So she went off and came back with a bottle of wine and opened it. But then it was like, what do we do with this bottle of sherry? And there were these 2 Korean gentlemen sharing a room with us. We got to sleep with an awful lot of people. But I said, well, we'll give it to these Korean guys. And they were sitting there polishing off a couple of bottles of red. I said, we're going to sleep with them tonight. So I don't know about giving them the sherry. And she said, no, give it to them. They're like, oh, yeah, we drink. So they drank the sherry. And next moment, they're putting on their jackets or raincoats. And they took off out into the rain. And they happened to be a Korean vicar who was doing his Camino, wandering from the cathedrals. And we actually ran into the end of the walk, and he was actually taking the service in the church. But we did sleep with him that night. So there was one other little incident which I thought displayed Christine's generosity of spirit. We were wandering through these woods and we had to cross this river, and there was only this little stone bridge, and there were these people raising funds and for child cancer or something. Couldn't quite remember, but Christine's standing there and we like think, come on, we've still got another 20k to go, let's just keep walking. And she's like, no, we'll stay there. So she's chatting away and she's getting out her wallet ready to give them some money, and then she says, the lawyer in her kicks in. She says, do you have any ID? And they pull out a couple of Romanian driver's licenses, and they were gypsies, and they weren't really fun. But Andrew, I just can't believe your willingness to help, not just Scott and I, but our kids, and all the amazing things that you've built for us over the years. I just love and treasure every one. But I just want to finish by saying, you can't choose family, but you can choose your friends. But I'm blessed because my sister and her husband are not only family, but they're our best friends.
we've got 3 more planned speeches, and then we're gonna hear from Andy and potentially Chris, probably just Andy. If we hear from Chris, it'll probably be criticism. So, but it's her love language, so that's okay. No, but the floor is open after we do these 3 speeches. If anyone wants to have a word, so if you're thinking about that, you might want to do that and start working up the courage now, so that you can say something in the end. Our next speaker has known Andy ever since he was shitting his pants. Oh wait, he's still shitting his pants. She's also known him since he used to run around vandalizing things and running from the police. Oh wait, that doesn't work either. Still doing that. Okay, they've known each other since they were both young enough to get a hiding from Mama Joan. Except Shelley knows that you're never too old to get a hiding from Mama Joan. It's alright, she wants to spank me too. Come on up, Shelley, where are you? Oh, you're right. Where is Shelley?
Shelley.
Let's give her a hand.
Just a wee disclaimer, because I do work in HR, but I've trained as an accountant. I'm a little bit worried that the alcohol will blur the screen, so just hold with that. Okay. So this is starting with Chris, because that's how the few words started. C, courtesy. During our first dinner together in 1986, Chris politely poked at pieces of meat on her plate, which I'd prepared, asking what it was. That's when I learned that Chris was vegetarian. Courtesy. My non-salad eating 4-year-old said suddenly one day, I like Auntie Chris. She says, Ash, would you like some more salad? She also taught my totally non-able to wash hair in the shower daughter to just step into the shower fearlessly and wash her hair after a swimming thing. Do you remember that? Oh, I do. Chris has also got an H in it, humour. There was an attempt at a lovely family dinner with lovely St Hilda's daughters and a lovely St Hilda's prize giving, which was created into an epic fail by a family member who is no longer here, and we're not sad, throwing a complete fit about something really important. I think it was world peace, but it may have been thinner thighs. He was, pretty explosive. Chris responded to this, she must have read the room, and responded by saying, just laughing, sometimes divorce just seems like a really good option. I had no idea that could be something that was amusing and possible. Thank you, Chris. The reinventing herself, now for the sake of time, because I've been told to trim this, I've held quite heavily, reinventing herself, and this is just one example. So in our 40s, the 4 siblings invested in their spouses, going back to university, retraining, whatever. I think it's kind of interesting and speaks to Chris's tenacity that only 2 of 4 in which we invested are putting that training to use. So I thank you on behalf of my brother, who probably did some of that investing.
He did.
Reinventing. Sorry. The other 2 spouses have put off the necklace with the children, but I'm not bitter. Invested. Are you keeping up with the acronym of Chris? Parenting, and sorry to my beautiful nieces, I love them more than life itself. Not more than my daughter though, so she's here. The music, the horses, everything you did, which I really love because I got to see it. Just such, oh, I'm going to cry. Such an amazing parent. You were a bit of a role model for me, and I just love it, and I hope my nieces enjoy that, mothering and fathering, but this is about Chris right now. So the Women's Refuge, I was lucky enough to have Chris and Andy stay with me one time and have amazing vegetarian meals before I was vegetarian. And the midnight phone calls, because Chris was working for the Women's Refuge, were just absolutely unbelievable. And I never heard you say, "Thank the Women's Refuge." You just got up, left the house, didn't even wake me, so I don't know how I know the story, and just gave. That was just, wow, really, really amazing. Sorry, my phone keeps getting bored and turning off. I'm sure it's not me that you see. And then the lawyering, I mean, just classic, amazing work. I don't know how you do that. I work in HR and people say to me, "I don't know how you do that." But really, I don't know how you do that. It's just amazing and so giving and generous. And enduring the abuse that I'm sure you still get now. And my not favourite quote is you being shouted at as a feminist dyke from the refuge. Where's Georgia? See? Yeah, someone new. By some a-hole of a father who didn't want his partner to get any help from Chris, who apparently was very short hair at that time. And also my favourite story is called just Mel here, because I won't name any names if she did, because we're talking about men. Oh, okay, so I just heard that this is an old story, but if Gorgeous Mel was here I wouldn't name names. So apparently when Chris was a baby lawyer at the grand old age of 40, one of the lawyers in town dressed her down so badly that the judge dropped in and said, "I am outraged as a judge and you don't talk like that, John Farrow." Stop that right now, and yeah, which I just love. You must have been doing a great job already, Chris. I'll try. But I don't know how you put up with that. I definitely would have tried. And sister, Chris is a lovely, generous, kind sister. Thanks, Maz, for starting that generosity thing. From flying to the other side of the world to support my friend too. I got interrupted here because my mother lost the birthday card. And the other thing I love about your sistering is the definition of sistering is some other things, so it's holistic. So it's not just Maz and Graham. It's not just Maz and Graham, and it's not just sisters-in-law, it's whoever you decide. And I came from Danielle and Al. I was going to hit you for what you said, but I'm not going to now. No. So that for me is an amazing, I was going to say I'm not a sister, but I am, but I don't have a sister. That's been an amazing thing that I've seen from you. How am I going with my 5 minutes,
Exceeded.
Not confined to blood. And I just found out I was allowed to say things about my beloved brother, but I got to talk really fast because I'm really worried I'm going to run out of time. My beloved brother. I'm not sure whether I'm more grateful to you for bringing a gardener into the family, one thing my mother didn't have.
What?
Thank you. Being so supportive of me during the worst time of my life. Always being fine when I suddenly start crying. I'll just finish this bit of water and then I'll give you a hug. No, I love that. It was, giving me 3 beautiful nieces. I love you guys.
Oh, we love you too.
I'm not a crier. Teaching my 8-year-old rock climbing, what were you thinking? Telling me about it later, much better. Actually telling my 8-year-old to tell me about it later. Or preventing me with an elbow from falling in a heap at the top of Hardy's ski lift. I have no idea how you did that. Or am I more proud of you for standing up for the underdog and
maybe just
wearing women's underwear?
Yeah, I think you guys should just go. Yeah, you're going to be super
In
quick.
winter,
Yeah.
signing a position following the underwear situation.
Should I just keep
From the
passing
police
through?
after a successful, can't say what, can't say where, can't say when, but I can tell you that he left my house house wearing women's
Nanny,
clothing.
tell Liam that Nanny
As
needs to be
a
next.
Successfully helping me to find an EV to suit my unbelievably impatient nature, so something with a big brain. Thank you so much for that, I really appreciated that. Baby corners like it's on rails. And most recently being rested on.
Should I do my dress? Think of the smell.
Proud of you, I have to say. These are not tears. So people, because I know we're not allowed to say ladies and gentlemen, my brother. Oh, and Chris. Sorry. My sister-in-law is outraged.
Thanks, Shelley. That was great. So next up, we're going to hear from the source of a lot of this shared trauma, Andy's mother. And she was born in 1929, which is super impressive.
I know.
And,
No,
1930.
she does. She's got a bit of you. Because
93,
I'll
right?
serve some beverages.
Yeah,
Okay?
something like that.
Are you happy?
Yeah, I just need
She's
to
old.
see.
So
I'll sit down and you people for your speech. Come on.
I don't know what she thinks the theme of tonight's dress-up party is,
Sure.
because retro to her is like, overalls during the Great Depression or something like that. The fact that women are wearing pants is cutting-edge fashion, so that's all I had because she's a late arrival. Let's welcome Joan up to...
And just for the record, Joan has always worn pants in our house.
Hell yeah.
Oh, that light is so nice.
How's everybody doing? Yeah, you're enjoying the fresh air.
Thank you very much for the invitation to come. And thank you for free. They have brought me so much joy and happiness and just incredibly able to do anything and look after the grandmother at the same time. And marvellous to my grandmother. Chris, I have been so proud of the way she built them up. She would come down to Dunedin. She'd arrive at home at 8 o'clock in the morning or thereabouts from work. And then she would have a bit of toast and have a bit of breakfast. She'd be sitting at the end of the table. She'd probably forgotten this. Sitting at the end of the table, eating a toast and studying for her law degree. She'd go off down to university, and on Thursday night, when she went home back to Wanaka, she would pick up the 3 girls, or at least 2 of them, I'm not sure if there were 3 all the time, and she would take them down to Alexandra to learn the violin. Incredible, incredible. And then she would go home at the weekend and they'd have horses, and the horses would all be trained up to go riding with their little owners. And they would go off somewhere for the weekend, maybe, or just a day, riding their horses in competitions. Chris wasn't just limited to one thing, she was not unlimited with everything. And she had a most wonderful garden everywhere she went. And she wasn't gardening, she was inside knitting and getting the meals and knitting for someone or some other people, for little lost children or something like that.
What lost children? Oh, yeah.
All of them.
We're all lost
As far as I know. I think that's probably all I've got to say, except that Andrew. Thank you for finding him.
Oh, yes!
What did Joan say?
She said, thank you for finding her. He did get lucky.
Nice one.
That was the best, Danny! Yes!
Absolute legend. I hope you don't remember any of the bad things I said.
Unfortunately, she will.
She will.
She's only 92.
Totally. So next, finally, last speech that's prepared, we're going to hear from Chris's and Andy's victims, children. These three girls, in all seriousness, they're the embodiment of what happens when you take all of Andy's best qualities and all of Chris's best qualities, and they just cancel each other out. All they inherited was poor punctuality. Okay, let's give them a round of applause.
Mum and Dad are definitely not what most people would consider normal. And there have been countless times throughout our lives where this has been apparent. Situations like living in a barn for the majority of high school, or hearing every detail of Chris's court proceedings on the drive home each day, including repeated advice on why you should never try meth. To having your friends send you photos of your dad in the news after he's been arrested yet again for protesting climate change. There truly is never a dull moment with these two. But despite their occasionally left-field tendencies, which we've all grown accustomed to, I honestly think life would be incredibly plain without them.
Yeah.
They never cease to amaze with their enthusiasm and support, no matter what it is that we are asking of them. For two self-proclaimed control freaks, two of the most chaotic and random people and despite your attempts to try and meddle with our lives, you accidentally managed to raise a capitalist, a judge, and a free-range chicken. But you can probably breathe a sigh of relief, as we've all now made it to 21, and none of us have ended up as a young Nat, a teen parent, or with a serious drug problem.
Debatable.
Although we have dated at least one of those. I don't know if it was Andy chopping wood menacingly whenever we brought a boy home. Or if we just had terrible taste in men. But our combined dating history is so bad that, believe it or not, this little American twat You two were by no measures the most harmonious couple. Beat around the bush there. But I think what kept you together, despite the explosive arguments and thrown phones, is that you always still managed to have fun together. As parents, you actually managed to balance each other out remarkably well. Andy, you're one of the most thoughtful people I know. In fact, so thoughtful that sometimes you take a few minutes to get a sentence. But thankfully, it's almost always worth the wait. Of course, we can't talk about Andy without bringing up the climate. Especially topical after your recent double arrest, to add to the long string of arrests that we've heard about this evening. Although we sometimes find it hard to find logic behind your actions, and we do occasionally tire of hearing you preach to us, we're also proud of the energy you put into fighting the good fight. I only wish you could have channeled some of that energy into cooking us something other than pumpkin soup, ramen, or baked beans on toast in law school. You guys all know Andy is the cool, relaxed guy who doesn't hesitate to put other people's children in highly questionable situations. And I'm Dominic. Don't survive.
Only survive.
He's also been known to get so drunk he thought it was a good idea to present a pregnant Chris with dead flowers at 3 o'clock in the morning before proceeding to slide down the stairs face first, vomiting as he went. I should probably point out that was child number 3 as well, not even the first one.
They say it's not romantic.
And he didn't vomit on her.
But when it comes to his girls, he has 0 chill. He's been known to call the cops after a few hours of not hearing from Emily, even when she said she would be out of service for a few days. But never one for consistency, he still managed to leave me up the ski field as a child and didn't realise until he got home and Mum was like, "Where's Chief?" While your overprotectiveness can get frustrating now we're actual adults, we know it's because you love us and you can't stand the thought of your offspring being hurt or traumatized, which is really sweet. Yet you still chose this feisty little Asian as a match. Christine's parenting style definitely utilised the stick more than the carrot. Whilst you can be a little stingy with the emotional support, you couldn't have been more generous with your time, and this is a theme this evening. It's come up multiple times. You spend time driving us to violin lessons, swim squad, and lugging us and our ponies around, and we'll never forget those good times that we have with you. Along with your preparation of mostly delicious, but always nutritious meals. Work is another place that your generosity shines through. I'm convinced that you do so well with your mad clients because you have a unique insight into their minds. But you are the ultimate social justice warrior, and we're really proud of the work that you do.
Yeah.
And whilst you're no doubt highly intelligent, we've heard it many times this evening, you're definitely the one who we inherited our blonde streak from. You've been known to take on small lakes in cars that have no place taking on small lakes. And you did once query who the main character of Borat was. If anyone hasn't seen it, it was Borat. I know you're worried about turning out like your mum, but like a fine wine, you actually seem to be mellowing and becoming more refined with age, and that is incredibly impressive, especially if you've met her mother. You guys are still the first people I call when things are going either really well or really badly. Just this week, I put the lawnmower through the rear window of my car. Andy was around there in 15 minutes helping me clean up. It's not always been smooth sailing, but I wouldn't change our upbringing for the world. I think it says a lot that Liam and I spend more time with you two than we do with anyone else. Many of you may think that's because we don't have many friends of our own. And you would be absolutely right. But I think we can all agree that for the most part it's because you guys are really great company. And this is a cliche, I know, but even though you're my parents, you really are two of my best friends.
No.